Welcome to Putting It Together, the podcast that goes through the entire body of work of Stephen Sondheim, show by show and song by song. My name is Kyle Marshall, your self-described Sondheim expert. Last time we heard what Papa's message was to his two boys to set them forth through the show, at least in the world of Bounce. This week, we're going to go back to the same exact scene, but investigate how it was done in Roadshow. As you'll soon discover, this was a song that really evolved throughout the different productions. And I'm so happy that Charlotte LeMay agreed to come back to the show and discuss a little bit more about their feelings with this song. Before we get to that, just very briefly, if you can and are willing to help support the show, that would really be a huge help. Really, the primary way to do that is through our Patreon page. Obviously, we understand that if finances are tight right now, that this is maybe not something that you can do. But sharing the show just generally is a great way to let other people and other listeners find the show. Putting It Together is an independent podcast, so if you can help monetarily, it'll just help to make this show run more effectively. And so you can go over to the Patreon page, patreon.com/puttingittogetherpodcast. This season, at the very least, I am uploading all the videos for the songs that we discuss as well, so you can kind of get a better sense of what's going on, visually speaking. Also, please feel free to write into the show, puttingittogetherpodcast@gmail.com, if you have any feedback that you want to provide, or if there's something that you want to add to the conversation that you don't think that me and my guests were able to ever get to. But that's all the things I think I have to say up here at the front of the show. Charlotte has been sitting here very patiently. Charlotte LeMay, thank you so much for coming back to the show.
Yes, good to be here, Kyle. Thank you.
Okay. This is where we have to start this season, which I know is sometimes unfair. The maybe least talked about of the Sondheim major productions. What's your history with Roadshow? Where are you at with the show?
Yes, my history with Roadshow is that I listened to the recording with Michael Cerveris and Alexander Gemignani a couple of years ago, and it didn't move me that much. And I didn't return to it until I was asked to be on the show, and then I watched a version of it. The same, I guess, it's still the Roadshow version. Just like a week ago. So
yeah,
I'm kind of a fresh. It's been bouncing around my head all week, but other than that, I don't have a long history with it.
Well, apropos, Bounce. Yes, I think we were both able to watch the recorded version of the Encores production of Roadshow, which definitely gave me a sense of the show itself. And I have watched the clips of the Gemignani Cerveris production as well, but have not been able to track down the full recorded version that does exist. But it seems like it comes onto YouTube and gets taken down within a few hours. So unless you're on it, what is your sense of this show? Meaning, again, you've seen maybe not the optimal version of watching a full production, but where are you feeling with where this sits with the legacy of Sondheim? Seeing a live production, did it move you more than just listening to the recordings?
Yes. Great question. I think that this show doesn't work.
Okay.
And I think that, I have to be honest. Yeah, I think that this show is kind of a very interesting swing and a miss. In terms of the legacy of Sondheim, my kind of theory of the show is that the fact that it's so tied to all of Sondheim's other shows really bears down on it. My impression is that it's trying too hard to be deep and about something, and it's trying to be about America in particular. I think that Pacific Overtures and Assassins are the other John Weidman shows with Sondheim, and both of them, Pacific Overtures is about Japan and the opening of Japan, but really it's about American imperialism, right? And Assassins is about people who shoot the president. Really, it's about the sort of the underside of the American dream. I think I would struggle to summarize Roadshow in a way like that. It's about Addison and Wilson Meisner trying to get rich and failing, and I suppose it's trying to be about the possibility of America or something like that. But it doesn't quite work for me. I don't know. Do you see what I mean?
I do see what you mean, because I do agree with you, broadly speaking. It's a show that doesn't fully work for me. I'll go further because I think that even some of the music doesn't work for me all that much in this show either. It is truly the first time, and I can say this at having, spent 9 years going through the entire songbook of Stephen Sondheim. This is the first show that I got to where it really felt like, oh, this is kind of like derivative of his previous work. And like I can hear the other shows that you could probably slot some of these songs into, which is like there's always like a Sondheimian, ethos and like soundscape, but it always felt like it is of this show. Like I'm watching Into the Woods, or I'm watching Assassins, or I'm watching Passion, and I can hear some Sondheim stuff in it, and lyrically and musically, but it's still of this show. And Roadshow, Bounce, Wise Guys, all of it, it just feels like, it feels like he's taking his like greatest hits and trying to remix them a little bit, and I don't know if it fully works in this show. And I'll have to say this, you are the third recording of 3 that I'm doing today, so I don't know where in the conversations anything lands anymore, but I know another conversation I keep having with people this season is, I fundamentally don't think that Weidman, Sondheim, and then the parade of directors that had their shot at this material, I don't think any of them were ever on the same page of what they wanted the show to be. To me, like that's really what it feels to me like, that there's just an incongruity between what the book writer, what the songwriter, and what the director wants this show to communicate, to say, and they just can never figure out how to all make that come together. Now, I will say, to be a little bit more positive in this comment, I actually do think I'm going to be bold enough to make this statement that there probably is some sort of like creative director out there, maybe they're in high school still right now, that's going to come at this material like in 10 or 15 years and like nail it and just figure out a way to have the through line that makes it all work. But I just don't know if that has happened really yet.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said. I think particularly, I definitely feel like the thing I love about Sondheim is it feels like he makes almost a new genre of music every time he writes a musical. And this is the first one where, yeah, if you take a song from Into the Woods and put it into a little night music, it's going to sound wrong, right? This song, this play just doesn't quite have its own sound, I think. But then I think in terms of bringing it, a director bringing it to life again, I think the problem that needs to be solved in this show that I don't think was solved in the Encore's production I watched. In the Encore's production I watched, there was a period of the show where I thought, this is actually working. This could actually be good.
Sure.
I'm moved by this. And that was the Palm Beach sequence. So like kind of the third
totally
of the four.
Yeah.
When so Wilson is out of the show. It's just Addison. Addison is the more kind of moral and innocent of the two, but he's adopted a little bit of Wilson's huckster personality.
Sure.
In the show, they actually have him wearing his hat in the version we saw. And then Hollis Bessemer comes on, who is his love interest, and he is almost recreating the dynamic of the two brothers, but Hollis is the innocent one now.
Yeah, that's right.
And I thought this is actually working. I've misjudged this show the whole time. But then Wilson shows back up, and I think Wilson is the problem in this show.
I'm so glad you're bringing this up, because I think you've now just verbalized something that I've been beating around the bush a little bit, and I hadn't fully clicked with me. But I think that is what my problem is that even the previous versions, like, they just truly want to have Wilson be the main character, and I just think he's fundamentally not the interesting one to follow in this. And then Roadshow, like I keep saying, it's the best version of what this material got to be, because they figured out, like, actually Addison is the far more interesting character to pursue. But if we're talking like it takes 45 minutes to get to the interesting bit of your 2-hour show, then it's like, that's a long time to get to, for me to like wait to get to like the interesting bit of what this story is all about.
Yeah, it seems like, so reading some of the history of this, the initial conception from Sondheim was that he thought Wilson Meisner was super cool. Wilson, I get the sense he's almost like Sondheim's historical crush. And like Sondheim's like wanted to write a show about Willie Meisner. And he comes to Weidman suggests maybe it's more about the brothers, which I think is a step in the right direction, but I think it's not far enough. I think it needs to be.
Yeah.
I think Willie should be like a villain character.
Yeah, I think this is the reason, I think only in part, that Sondheim is probably so besotted with Wilson is that he knew some of the people who knew him specifically, right? Because Wilson worked in Broadway for a bit, like wrote, I'm going to put that in quotes, wrote some Broadway shows. He kind of sat in the room while they were being written, is what it sounds like mostly. Like knew Irving Berlin, who's the other big names around that time, other people. Cross paths with Evelyn Nesbit, who, if
Oh my
ragtime
God.
fans will know, so like knew all these like important people. And I think you're right. He was like, so like, oh my goodness, like this like really cool person who had like these witticisms that everyone in New York City was like saying, and like had like books written about like all the sayings that Wilson Meisner said. It's like, sure. And another little backstory: I read the biography of the
Oh yeah.
Meisner brothers that's referenced by Sondheim. That's what he read or came across that made him want to do the show back in the 1950s. And so I read it, and then I did some research online afterwards. And like half of that book, if I'm being generous, it's probably even more than that, but like at least 50% of that book is entirely made up. Like it didn't even happen. So all this to say that like Wilson is like this fast talking bullshitter who was able to weasel himself into rooms. So I understand why someone would be interested in following that story, but ultimately he doesn't really have a story to tell.
And he's not likable. I think the
Mhm.
problem I think I would be okay. I was thinking about this. I thought of because again this show is in the shadow of all the other Sondheim shows.
Mhm.
So I thought about Sweeney Todd, and I thought about Mrs. Lovett, who is just unbelievably mercenary. Like everything
Yeah,
she
yeah,
does is for a profit motive, and she is, orchestrates a scheme of murdering and people and cooking them into pies, right?
yeah.
Just the most awful, unlikable person you can imagine. But we love her in the show.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Why do we love her in the show? I think it's because just tonally it works. Like she's just funny, and the a little priest, right? We introduce the idea of the scheme through these jokes. It's sort of clear to us we're not supposed to take it that seriously. And then in the end, she's punished, right?
Sure.
She doesn't profit in the end, and she's and we I guess we identify sort of with Sweeney Todd and Mrs. Lovett in that show. In Roadshow, we identify with Addison, and Wilson is like fucking him up constantly, right?
Yeah.
I think I never got over that he tried to gamble away the gold he dug up, right, in that
Sure.
first scene. Like that pretty much was it for me and in my relationship with Willie.
Hmm.
You said you read the biography. Was the real guy just as bad? Was he just seems like
Yeah,
a
I mean,
different.
I think they do lean into him being a dirtbag a little bit more.
Okay.
By the sounds of it, he was a bit of an unsavory character. Like he was in with the mob and other things. Like I don't think he was like a quote unquote good guy. Yeah, even the book seems to be like cast under the spell of Wilson a little bit because 70% of the book is about him, 30% is about Addison. So
Right. Well, he sparkles, right?
right, yeah,
She has that whole
exactly.
song. Some men are born to be good, and some men are born to sparkle. I
Right.
was like, "God, this isn't a good enough argument, right?" And
Yeah,
at the end, like Addison has this song. I think the last song is like, "I don't want, like, I want you to leave" or something. Like, get
yeah,
out, get out of my life. And then at the end, he's like, "No, I don't want you to go." And I'm thinking like, yes, I do. I do want him to go still. Like, what? I'm just
yeah,
not convinced that because he just doesn't do anything likable the whole show.
yeah. I
And I think it
think
could be, I think it would work if the show was funny. This is why I think that the vaudeville, the earlier version where it was more vaudeville,
yeah.
could have worked better. Because maybe if it was funny, if he was funny like Mrs. Lovett is funny, maybe it would have worked better. And
Yeah, make him more into like
yeah,
a raconteur type of character. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think we're both aligned in the fact I just don't think it works. And like again, they worked on this show for 14 years. I'm not going to tell people like I think you could just work on it a couple more years, and it's gonna like you're gonna finally
yeah,
nail this
yeah. Of
idea.
course, I'm sure these people are much better at writing shows than I do. I'm not gonna fix it, right?
No,
But
no, no.
I can
I'm
sort
just,
of tell when they're moving in the wrong direction, though. I
yeah,
think that's yeah.
but I do agree with you in this in the fact that I'm kind of in this show in that middle portion. Like I'm this like swept up and like okay, this is kind of an interesting exploration here now, and it's probably where the majority of like the songs I enjoy that I would probably return to are. Whether we want to, whether Wilson was more funny or not. I do think that the fact that essentially his like comeuppance is like an offstage occurrence is like catastrophic to
Yeah.
the show. Like you never ever actually see him face up to anything that he's actually done. I will say what is a good change. Wise Guys, as it stood, was just way too invested in being historically accurate to the detriment of being an interesting narrative. Whereas like we're going to introduce you every character that they ever came across and every family member. It's like you'll never see them again, but they're here. It's like okay,
Right.
we need to streamline this idea down because we're taking way too long to get to the point.
I always see I often don't like if you watch a movie and then the text based on a true story comes up.
I know.
I always kind of groan because it's like, well, there's going to be a lot of stuff in here that doesn't serve the plot. It's just there because it happened, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's my usual distaste for biopics. Like, it's rare for me to like really really love one because at a certain point it just feels like I'm watching a checklist in real time. Like, and this happened, and then this happened, and this happened, and this
Yeah.
happened. I'm like, okay, well, then that's super interesting. So as far as this song goes that we're talking about, it's in your hands now.
Yes.
Do you know much about the history of how this came into the show and eventually stayed in the show?
I'm looking in the book. I see it came into the show in the second reading of Wise Guys.
Yeah.
So
So
it's on the kind of grainy recording you can find.
yes, it
Um,
definitely is. The genesis of the show, in my opinion, goes from like very comedic to pretty serious with comedic bits that
mhm.
happen throughout it. Because the original incarnation of this, the initial idea even was that it was supposed to emulate the old. This is like no one under 45 probably knows what this even is. The old road pictures with Bing Crosby and Bob Hope. Like they
Mhm.
had a string of these movies in like the 40s and 50s where it was like the road.
I think I'm too young to have watched them, but I think I can kind of
Yeah.
have a sense, you know, in the same way that I kind of have a sense of what the Follies are like. There's kind of a
Yeah.
lingering cultural memory of what that
Yeah,
is
the
like.
honestly the biggest one is like Family Guy will do these with Stewie and Brian where they go on an
Mhm.
adventure and they are doing Bob Hope and Bing Crosby from those movies. Like it's a straight adaptation basically. Regardless, like lightly comedic, people bumbling through weird adventures and then someone gets the girl and then everyone goes home happy. Like that's basically the plot of every one of those films. And so that was the idea with like these vaudeville bits sprinkled through them and so they do the workshop version, then they do the staged reading version to try and get some money, and that's where this song comes in. And so this is back still when it was fairly comedic. So their father, actually, before I get too far into this, as it stands now, do you know what's happening? Can you explain what's happening in the show up to this point? Like what happened right before this song starts?
So the before the song starts, I think it's just the introduction of the characters. Depending on which version, in the version I saw, it's framed by Addison is old and looking back on his life.
Right.
It's very merrily we roll along, which I'm sure
Hmm.
we'll continue to talk about, because it uses the same road idea. But I think it just goes right in. They're
You're right.
go
We've
back,
seen.
flash back to childhood, and then immediately Papa's dying and sings him the song.
That's right. So in the Wise Guys version, the comedic take on this song is that Papa has already died. So he's actually sitting
Uh-huh.
up in his coffin singing this song and then he falls back into his coffin dead and that's the end of the scene.
See, isn't this doesn't this it just sounds better to me. It just sounds like I think I want this show to be like funny. I think not every
Mhm.
show has to be like serious.
You should honestly, you should check out Bounce then. Bounce is kind of like the
Okay,
funny
okay.
version, the intermediary journey in between these. This song actually doesn't even show up in Bounce. They cut the song, they do a different song altogether in place of it, but then they bring it back for Roadshow. So instead of it being like this overtly comic thing, it just ends on a comic beat, right?
Mhm.
So it's basically he sings the song while he's in bed, and then at the very final note he falls over dead. Like that's what this is. To talk about something we've already semi-discussed about how this feels derivative of a lot of his work. Well, this song in particular is incredibly derivative because he's just reusing a melody from Assassins. To be fair, a cut song from Assassins, but nonetheless, he uses that cut song in here and just uses the melody again, which is the Flag song, which weirdly enough gets put into some versions of Assassins now. But be that as it may, at the time, it wasn't in Assassins. So he just took the song melody and threw it here and then rewrote different lyrics to
Okay.
for the father to sing.
I've never heard the Flag song, but
Yeah.
I will say I think maybe there was some motivic connection going on in the composition of Assassins because it's almost exactly the same melody. Let's see, it's there's a road straight ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a century beginning.
It
Is
feels so Assassins actually to me,
no,
but
well, it's almost exactly. I just heard on the news how a mailman won the lottery. Right?
oh
It's
yeah.
like the same.
Yeah, it's very very
I think
similar.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
slightly different, but I heard this song and I spent a long time thinking, is this This sounds like something I've heard before. Is it like a military song? It's a little bit like the Marine song. But no, it's just I was just thinking of the other national anthem.
Yeah,
It's
it
almost the
feels like
same
another
thing.
national anthem. Sondheim writes that this is, yeah, he's supposed to sound like it's a Sousa march, but it's, yeah, I don't know if it's really Sousa
He's done that
like.
enough. He's done enough Sousa marches.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's how this song kind of comes to be. It's like existed in an older format, removed in bounds, brought back here again in this version. The song starts off with Papa saying, "There's a road." Oh, actually, I'll inform the audience. The book lyrics that Sondheim wrote are actually incorrect from the recording, so I'm gonna go to what they actually are, at least on the recordings. So he says, "There's a road straight ahead. There's a century beginning. There's a land of opportunity and more. It's in your hands now. There are dreams to be fed. There's a world that's worth the winning. There's a legacy of riches that's in store. Now it's up to you, and you'll see it through. If you stay on track and you don't look back, it's in your hands now. Time to start the journey now."
There's a road straight ahead. There's a century beginning. There's a land of opportunity and more. It's in your hands now. There are dreams to be fed. There's a world that's worth the winning. There's a legacy of riches that's in store. Now it's up to and you'll see it through if you stay on track and you don't look back. It's in your hands now. Time to start your journey now.
Okay, so this is I feel like when we're talking like historical media, like plays and movies and so forth that are set in the past, I think often the further back you go, the less seriously we take it. You know, think
Sure.
a funny thing that happened on the way to the forum. It's in Rome. It's
Yeah.
all a huge joke. I think one thing I like is like when Sondheim writes in the 19th century, specifically in like Passion or this show, I think it feels very he like takes seriously the cultural moment he's writing about.
Sure.
And so what was going on in this cultural moment? I think the idea is that Papa's generation was and you have to think of this just from the perspective of white men, right? And so
Sure.
we don't think about that. We don't think about this time in this way now, as we should not. But this show is not really trying to incorporate other perspectives. So, and from the perspective of the white settler men, Papa's generation expanded the country west, you know, the pioneer generation into California. I think don't they grow up in California somewhere?
They do.
They're sort
In
of at the western
yeah.
Benicia, is it?
Benicia, that's correct.
Okay.
I was going to bring this up about how an undercurrent that is in this show is that they're constantly on the wrong plot of land, I guess, because Benicia was like meant to be like the next San Francisco, and then never became that. And then, gosh, there's
Boca
another.
Raton.
Well, yeah, I was going to say ultimately there's another part that I'm now forgetting how I was going to tie it together. But then ultimately it's Boca Raton. We're going to be this new paradise, and that falls through with the housing, with the
I guess
implosion.
every place Addison goes, he's like in the wrong place. And
Correct.
Addison Strip. Addison Strip, by the way, one of the songs I think is good.
Yeah.
Not so much the racist caricatures, but the other part when he lists the stuff he got, I think that's pretty good.
I will say, even in that Encore's version, like, ooh, this is a bit rough for some of these these places he's going to.
I don't know. Yes, you can feel that Sondheim is like an old guy writing, you know, maybe hasn't evolved with the rest of us, you know.
Yeah, which is weird because that's usually not a criticism I have of him necessarily, but in that song in particular, I'm like, okay, well, the song is still jaunty and fun, I suppose.
But anyway, so what I was saying was that there's no more spatial expansion of the country to
Yeah,
be done.
that's right.
So the idea is that there needs to be this kind of spiritual expansion of like reaching destiny. That's the idea of the road I think Papa's talking about.
To push that further, I think you're right. I think what's trying to be communicated here is like there's not a lot more land necessarily to expand into, but it's the legacy of riches, right? So now we can exploit that, and like there's money to be had.
Yeah.
With this expansion that we have been a part of here now. So go and find like where you can get all that money from.
Yeah, so we start off with the road. The first like stanza is that just there's a road straight ahead. And then the next one he clarifies that he's thinking about riches. I think it's interesting. It's in your hands now is the title of the song. There's two metaphors going on. There's the road, and then there's like I guess like a bag of money.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
bag
yeah.
of money is something you can put in your hands. The road is not. I think just in this first stanza, it's a mixed metaphor. There's a road straight ahead, and it's in your hands now. It doesn't make sense, but
Yeah, no,
yeah.
true. That is true.
But I guess the future, destiny is in your hands. Is what he's saying.
Papa was never a writer, okay? So like,
Not like Willie, who wrote all those plays.
that's right. That's right. I mean, to put this out too, I mean, like, I guess we'll get into it further into this song, but looking at the two brothers here, we do have two different progressions. We have Addison, who eventually does figure out what he's really good at and pursues it, and Wilson, who never really finds anything that he's good at. Like, he actually isn't really good at anything that
See,
he
that could
stumbles
be a
into.
show, Kyle. See, I think that could, but they don't really do that. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love for him to grapple with that. Yeah, what is Wilson good at? So many ideas, so much possibility here.
A white canvas. Yes, that is right.
Another 14 years. We'll
Yeah.
get it.
So Papa continues on and he says, never falter, never rest until you know you've achieved the very best that can be, never pausing in your quest for something better just around the corner. Up to you to set the course of where you'll be with the limitless resources you can plumb. Keep your eyes on what's afar, not on what we are, but what we can become.
Never falter, never rest until you know you've achieved the very best that you can be. Never pausing in your quest for something better just around the corner. Up to you to set the course of where we'll go with the limitless resources you can plumb. Keep your eyes on what's afar, not on what we are, but what we can become.
Okay, so we're not we've kind of left the road metaphor behind. This doesn't. Let's see. I don't think there's a metaphor really involved in his. I guess yeah. Remember pausing in your quest. That's not really concrete. Something better just around the corner. I guess that's kind of spatial. That's the idea of the road is bending. Set the course. Set the course is also spatial. I'm interested in tracking the metaphor here.
Well, actually, kind of what's kind of popping out here for me is that there is a bit of a fracture in here. I think you're pointing it out correctly, that there seems to be a mixed message he's trying to communicate here. But weirdly enough, I would say that Wilson takes one half of it and Addison takes the other. Where
What do you mean by that? Yeah.
by Wilson is much more interested in money throughout the show, and Addison is much more interested in becoming the very best at something.
Yeah.
I think that he becomes corrupted by his brother later on, but still, that is kind of what they initially pursue. Is like one is trying to go get money, one is trying to become the best at something, and that's how they kind of like split from each other before they come back.
Yeah, that's so interesting because yeah, this just song taken on its own is not even self-consistent, right? Because he's saying he's going on about the legacy of riches, which is one thing, and then he's saying you need to achieve the very best that you can be. Well, that's really something different, right?
Right,
Except
right.
I think it's true to like the kind of American, the myth we tell about ourselves that like getting rich and being the best you can be are like the same thing, right? I think maybe that's accurate. But it is different, right? And I think you're right that they. That's kind of the two brothers. Do they? Yeah, I think this is the promise. I think this song is like the counterpoint to the game.
Sure.
To me, this
Yeah.
is like this is the hopeful vision that they kind of is going to track them throughout the show, that they have in their heads, and then the kind of embracing the squandering of it is the song The Game, which I also like.
Yeah, the game's fun. I think that this is absolutely where it's placed in the show, and I think what its intended purpose is supposed to be like. This is the inciting incident of like them getting out of California and trying to figure out what their futures are going to be. And then Wilson eventually with the game figures out like, oh, like it's not like I can just play people. Like it's not about individual moments, it's about how they get stitched together. And then Addison's trip, which happens right after that, is literally him being like, I have to go and find this. I am actually going on a destination to figure out what my destiny is supposed to be, sort of thing. Without this little pep talk, I don't know if we get to those two diverting in the woods sort of thing.
I think what's really funny about the show is I think you kind of pointed to this, is that they're almost like just turning, like the audience knows there's going to be a theme. It's almost like, okay, it's the start of the show. Without much build up, they just kind of turn to the audience and say, this is the theme of the show. That's kind of what the
Yeah,
song feels like,
yeah.
right? I kind of like that. See, this is why I think there's comedic potential here.
Yeah.
I view the show, I think, as funnier than they than the people putting it on.
Well, yeah.
You know,
As I've already said, I
it's like
think that
ironic, you know.
yeah, true, true. And so like they go from this to Jagged Little Pill. This is what I mean when I said before about how I just fundamentally think that the creatives in this were all trying to write a different show. Because it really does feel like it's fractured at all times of trying to be like, we're going to be funny, but not really, but sort of. And like, this is the theme that we're going to state up front, but then not really pursue that for much of the show. And then, oh, we're going to bring that back at the end. So it's just like, you can feel that this was probably like just gestating too long.
You remember in A Little Night Music that when Sondheim really wanted it to have a more complicated plot with like time
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
resetting and stuff, and then I think was it Mary Rogers told him, why don't you just like write a basic show with some really good songs? And then it's like it is a pretty basic show, but the songs are like some of the best I
Yeah.
think in his whole canon. I don't mean to just keep sitting here like armchair
Yeah.
composer suggesting things, but like I feel like he was early enough in his career then he could do that. He's late enough in his career with Roadshow that it kind of has to be too many things.
I guess so. I think the fascinating thing when you read through that Hat book and he like gives his like opinion on the 4 different versions of the show, an interesting thing that keeps coming up is that I was old enough and I was like so established in my career that I should have been able to avoid these 5 mistakes that we made. And I'm like, yeah, why did you make all these mistakes? I mean, one of those mistakes is fine, but like you're right, they keep compounding and compounding. It's like it took me this long to figure out like this is why this wasn't working. So yeah, who really knows like behind it? What I'm really interested in. I think this show, above all else, is like could make for a fascinating like behind the scenes tell all sort of thing. One of those things where it's like the behind the scenes is far more interesting than what actually happened on stage. Ultimately, like it's like the story behind that would be fascinating to me, because I'm sure there must have been like people that just dug in their heels like, no, it has to be this thing, and everyone was just too nice or I don't know, deferring to be like, no, this doesn't make sense, like we should just do it this way. I don't know, I'm also armchairing this a
Well,
little bit.
I mean, when you have a podcast about musicals, what else can we do,
I
right?
suppose I just think weirdly enough Sondheim is so close to getting the point, because his last thing that he writes about this is like, I think people would be more forgiving of this if this had come out ultimately and been a success. Then it would have been all worth it that we'd spent 14 years making Roadshow. And it's like, well, you're right. It just kind of comes out as like, meh, like a collective shrug by everybody. And then it was just like, yeah, I guess I really truly think you could have spent 14 years doing something probably far more interesting. But also, he had wanted to do this since he was like 20 years old. So I guess he's can do what he wants.
I think there's a lot of virtue in the trying. Yeah, I'm giving my honest opinion on whether it was successful, but I
Yeah.
think I good for him for getting old, but still his career spanned like starting with West Side Story. It's like
Yeah,
5 decades
57.
until the 90s when they started, and then this came out even a decade later.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So good for him for still writing shows.
For sure. I think ultimately here now, at the very least, like in 2026, because of the simple fact that Here We Are has been released, the pressure has kind of come off of Roadshow, where no longer do you have to say like, this is the last Sondheim show that he gave us, like this is his like stamp that he gave, that Here We Are now takes that mantle and it doesn't have to like live up to be like the final thing that he ever made.
This is maybe a separate conversation, but how do you feel about Here We Are as the new
Yeah,
end
yeah,
of
no, it's
his
good.
career?
We'll have a whole season on it here eventually. I'm ultimately positive on the show. I still don't think that show is a home run. I actually have kind of big structural problems with that one too. But I find that one to be at the very least interesting. Some people would maybe say an interesting failure, but I'm just going to stay with interesting for now. Whereas Roadshow, I just find to be like a nothing burger in many ways, where it's like, I guess like there's some stuff here that's interesting or that I like, but like nothing that I would be, yeah, it's just a nothing. There's no heart feelings I have either way, which is why it's so interesting it took so long for them to actually make.
My impression with Here We Are is the thing it has going for it is that it's not trying to be any other Sondheim
Right.
shows. It's kind of its own thing, and I
It's
think that's
completely
good.
its own thing, yeah. But I'll go to my personal grave saying that it's nice that the surviving creatives say that they had always wanted only the first half to have music, but I kind of call BS. I call complete BS
No,
on
they
that
didn't.
idea. Okay, well, this is how this song ends here. Follow on where we've led, make the past an underpinning for the future, for the road you must explore. As the road extends, it gets rough as it ascends, and it often bends, but it never ever ends. It will take you anywhere you want if you know where you're going. It's in your hands now, boys. Make of it what you will, but make me proud, make me proud. And then he dies.
Go on where we've led, make the past an underpinning for the future, for the road you must explore. As the road extends, it gets rough as it ascends, and it often bends, but it never ever ends. It will take you anywhere you want, if you know where you're going. It's in your hands now, boys. Make of it what you will, but make me proud.
Okay. I like that it never ends.
Mm-hmm.
Because that suggests that it's a road metaphor, but the road isn't leading to a goal,
Mm-hmm.
which is a little different than what he said before. Again, with the legacy of riches, that
Right.
suggests there's like a pot of gold at the end of the road, right? But
Right.
the never ends suggests that actually being on the road, striving is the point, right, and not any particular destination. Which is similar to in the game he'll say something similar actually. The game is sort of related because he says that actually making the money isn't the point. The point is like the excitement of trying to
Yeah,
make the
yeah.
money.
I actually really love this whole run of the extends, ascends, bends, ends.
Oh, it's yeah. See, that's a little bit of that's
Mm-hmm.
recognizable as like Sondheim brilliance. There, it's still
Yeah.
there. Right, he can still do it. Where you just you keep thinking okay, that's all the rhymes, and there's another rhyme.
Mm-hmm.
It still gets me. It still tickles that part of my brain.
Yeah, yeah.
When he does that. I like the other thing is that it's make of it what you will. I think. Did you say that's not in the book? I think it seems like that was one of the slight changes, perhaps.
It gets rough as nothing, but it'll take you anywhere you want.
Take you anywhere.
Make of it what you will, but make me proud. Yes, that's what they say.
Right. It seems like that's a change from the Wise Guys version, which it just ends with doesn't matter how or where it goes as long as it keeps going. It's actually a significant difference because
Yeah.
that suggests that the first version says you have one destiny and you need to find it. The make of it what you will suggests you can choose your destiny. Right,
Well,
it's a
yeah.
different position on free will.
Because that line comes right after the line that I wanted to highlight, which is,
Right.
it will take you anywhere you want if you know where you're going. Which is an interesting way to phrase. It's just an interesting thing to say,
That's
right?
not
'Cause
how
it's-
roads work.
Well, true. I mean, but it's also like, I think it's two, is it aphorisms? Is that the right word? It's two sayings that people use, right? It's like he kind of smashes those together and says you can go anywhere you want, but you have to know where you're going first. This also feels like one of those things that happened in Into the Woods for like last midnight as the characters are running through the woods. But besides that, it just feels awkward. It's like telling a kid like you can be anything you want to be as long as you stay up front like what you want to be. It's just a
Right.
weird way to phrase that.
Yeah, well, it sets up that Addison is going to spend a long time trying to figure out where he wants to go.
Yeah.
But I think the whole idea of like conceptualizing your future as a road, there's a path and you follow. You always know where the road is. You don't know where it's going to go, but you can still follow it. So it's a mixed metaphor. I think again, Papa maybe not a literary genius here.
I usually end up in traffic jams anyway, so
What do you think of, because this is, to me, this song as well as God What a Waste that opens the roadshow. It like they might as well come on and sing, How did it happen?
right,
Where
right.
did you start to slip out of gear? Like it's essentially the same the same idea is like your life is a road.
Hmm.
You're making choices is progressing along this road. But the difference is that Merrily We Roll Along views it retrospectively.
Right.
You're at some point and you're trying to understand where did I take a wrong turn. Here we're at the start of the road. It's all in front of you. So it's much more optimistic and hopeful, but there's still a sense of like that you can in fact take a wrong turn. You can get off the road. So I think it's essentially the same idea. It's just viewed from the other lens, viewed from this more hopeful
Hmm.
lens of you're at the start.
Yeah, I think that the thing is that I'm a little bit down on Waste as an opening song anyways. I
No,
just
well, I think it's not good either, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I just think it's just like the even the wrong tone
Mhm.
for the show that it is. So there's that. I think I think that this is a perfectly okay song that has the last bit is like my favorite part of it probably. And
Mhm.
Papa does come up occasionally throughout the rest of the show. Like I guess his ghost or specter shows up a few times throughout the show. Narratively speaking, like this is important and stuff like that. But I will say that until I did this like more like of a deep dive sort of thing, I don't know if the show does a good enough job communicating that Wilson and Addison are taking two different lessons from this speech. And I don't know if there would be a way to be like just kind of really nail that onto there, or if it even needs to, I guess. Anyways, this is me a long rambling way of saying like I the song is fine, the melody is fine, there's some cool lyrics and stuff like that, but as with all most of road shows, like am I ever gonna like choose to listen to this? No, probably
No,
not.
right. Yeah, I would agree. I think it comes out when they make their choices. They'll both Wilson and Addison, every time they make a choice, they'll reference back to like what Daddy said.
Yeah.
But I think this song is so, frankly, it's so vague. I think you could justify anything with it.
Yeah, right.
So it would be nice if there was something in the at the moment, if there was some way of showing maybe Wilson and Addison are there and react to it differently. Maybe they have parts in the song or something that would show that they're thinking differently. But I think it does. It's just not. I think it's just not specific enough to come through. But it
No.
does. They
Well,
both reference it.
yeah, I think if I was if for some reason a Broadway show really wanted to lose money and they contacted me to direct it, how I would actually probably stage this, which would be impossible to communicate through an audio only medium. But on stage, I would probably just have Addison and Wilson be on both sides of the bed, and he could like turn and refer to the person whose advice he's gonna like give to, sort of thing. Like that's kind of would be the solve. But again, on a audio recording, it's kind of hard to make that
I can
clear.
sort of see it. Yeah, he like when he says there's a legacy of riches and story,
Hmm.
he like touches
Yeah.
Wilson's shoulder, and then Wilson, you see him like, and then when he says the other thing about how the road never ends. However, I think that it's not quite so simple as a binary thing because Addison is also trying to get rich in his own
Hmm.
way. They just kind of go about it differently. So kind of all of the song does apply to both of them.
Hmm.
Anyway, so it could work, but you'd have to think about it.
So I guess for your overall interpretation of this song, where would you like put it into the score? Like if you had to rank all the songs of
Or if I had to
Roadshow.
rank the songs of the score,
Yeah, would
I think
well, you don't have to give me an actual number, but like, would this be top, middle, bottom? Like, where would this kind of fit?
absolutely. This is middle. I think
Hmm.
there's a couple of songs that stand out to me. I think The Game, Addison's Trip, maybe some of the Palm Beach sequence would be
Hmm.
top for me. This is like solid. Again, yeah, I would agree that for me this is almost it sounds almost generic. I
Hmm.
think that the strong similarity to Assassins makes it kind of have less impact. So it's kind of there, it's doing its job. But it is I kind of enjoy it. I enjoy the melody of it. From a purely musical perspective, I think it's pretty. It has an Aaron Copland feel to it as well.
Sure.
Um, and it is, yeah, I enjoy the song. I think, like, I would enjoy listening to it if someone did like a concert. So I'd say it's middle. I don't actively dislike it. I think I actively dislike the song where Willie sparkles. I think that's got to be bottom for me.
Which one is that one again?
It's his mother singing. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's right. That's right. I think, yeah, like dramatically speaking, this sounding like a bit of a march makes sense. Like he's setting his boys forth to march through life type of thing. So, like, there's a bunch of stuff that, narratively speaking works. But I'm with you. Like, melody's fine.
Has a climax, right? I think when he
Yeah.
says that it ascends, it
Yeah.
starts off really somber and then it becomes more of a march. Yeah, it has a structure to it. It tells a story.
But for me, besides the ones you've mentioned, like "You're the Best Thing That Ever Happened to Me," I love that song a lot.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's not reaching those heights for me
It
at
is
all.
it is rare in Sondheim shows to get like romance that's like feels
True.
good. I think Passion you need to get through a whole show to get to it, and it's
Yes,
still a little. Passion is definitely a weird thing.
for
But
sure.
I think it's compelling. I think Hollis and Addison is compelling until the end of the relationship, which baffled me because Addison seems to suggest that he was manipulating Hollis the whole time. I don't know if he wasn't. Like my read of it was that he was not.
Yeah, I
That
know.
was
That's where
genuine.
it gets
But then
really weird.
he
Yeah.
feels guilty and he's claiming to. I didn't understand it,
Yeah,
and
that
I
whole
feel
thing
like
does
it's
not
pretty
resolve.
disappointing. But this is the only gay representation in the whole Sondheim canon, and
It
it's
truly is,
not.
yeah.
It's like not handled super well.
No. But that first half of the relationship, I'm totally on board with. Besides West Side Story, which I know he doesn't write the music for, like this is probably the only other example, like outside of Passion, where he writes like I'm writing a romantic song that isn't like being
Maybe,
subverted or being like
yeah.
weirdly, I don't know, toxic at the same time, sort of thing.
Like
So
Send in the Clowns is, I guess, romantic, but it's very like we already had a failed relationship, and now we're like
yeah, yeah,
it's not quite. It's a kind of a different thing, yeah. So I
yeah.
think this is kind of unique.
I guess to wrap things up here, my last question is: I made the bold claim, but for you, do you think that Roadshow could ever be reclaimed in the same way like a Merrily We Roll Along eventually had like a big success on Broadway?
I think they might have to take some liberties with the script, which I'm not
Yeah,
sure you're actually allowed to do. Maybe I don't know who's running the Sondheim estate,
true.
but
Yeah.
it seemed I think that there's some of the problems. I think just the problem of Wilson just never doing anything good the whole show, and then we're supposed to like him at the end. I think that's something that you might have to do some rewrites to fix, personally. But I could be proven wrong.
Listen, another 14 years and I can nail this, okay? I can get this right. Charlotte, thank you so much for being here.
Yes.
I always bring this up. I know what the answer is going to be, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If people want to stay in contact with you, is there a way for them to do so?
Yeah, well, I would love for people to email me at charlottelemay1@icloud.com. No one's ever done it, for the record, but if you do, like, you would make my day. And then I volunteer with the Central Texas Pig Rescue. You can look that up. You can sponsor a pig. That's always fun. So not related to anything we talked about, but
No.
if you wanted to do that, I wouldn't stand in your way.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Kyle.